When you dance the dance of another, you make yourself in the image of its creator. You empty yourself so that her work can live within you. Do you understand?
Yeah.
You're in a company now. You have to find your right place. You have to decide. What is it you want to be for this company? Is it the head? The spine? The sex? The heart?
The hands.
Welcome back to the Haddonfield Horrors Podcast, where we review horror movies and horror franchises. I'm Tawan.
I'm Elion.
And today we are reviewing Suspiria, the 2018 remake, written by David Kajanik and directed by Luca Guadagnino. Elion, can we have you read us the plot summary?
The plot centers around Susie, who auditions at a dance school in Berlin and gets elected. The film is set in 1977, and a student named Patricia mysteriously disappeared. Patricia consults with Dr. Klemperer, revealing that the school is actually run by witches. During climactic ritual, Susie reveals her identity as Mother Suspira, one of the three ancient witches, and unleashes a brutal and supernatural reckoning.
And before we get into our movie today, we're just going to go over some Haddonfield headlines. First on the docket is 28 years later brought in a box office of 60 million worldwide. So this is the latest in the 28 zombie franchise. So this follows up 28 Weeks Later, which came out in 2007 and is directed by the original director Danny Boyle, who did the first movie 28 Days Later, and it is the first of I don't believe they say this is going to be a new a trilogy, but there is a sequel that was shot back to back with this movie that is planned on being released in January of next year. So this movie has pretty much almost brought in its budget back. The budget was 60 million for the movie, and so it opened with 60, so they already kind of broke even. Now everything just profit. So I think they're doing pretty good here. I haven't got to catch the movie myself. I'm very interested in seeing it. I've been seeing a lot of discourse around it online. Most people have been saying that it's good, just that the ending is a little divisive for some. So I'm interested in how that's going to turn out when I, check into it. Elion, have you seen 28 Days Later, 28 Weeks Later prior?
To be honest, I've never even heard of it.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, we're sure we're going to do those movies eventually. They kind of, I don't think it was the first to do this, or maybe it was, because I think it came out before the Dawn of the Dead remake, but it was kind of one of those franchises that started the fast zombies, the zombies move running at the speed, running and shit.
Right.
It kind of started that, if I'm not mistaken, because I think before that, when you see zombies in movies, they were a little slower and things like that, more like Night of the Living Dead type shit. But with this movie, they the first one, they kind of brought those really crackhead zombies and stuff like that we see a lot of these days, in The Last of Us, especially the Dawn of the Dead remake that came out in I think 2004. So yeah, this kind of honed in on that type of thing. And the original was a really good movie. The sequel, I don't remember much of the sequel because it's been years since I've seen that, but I don't think people liked it as much as the first one, but this one seems to be racking in pretty well, as of right now. And
really?
Yeah, this new one seems to be doing pretty good. But with that, it also leads into our next headline, which Rotten Tomatoes has released their list of the top-rated horror movies of the year so far. Now, we'll say this list does include some 2024 movies depending on release date. We may have seen them like in 2024, but they may not have had like a global or worldwide release until this year. So that may be why some like are in there that like we may have either covered or may have came out last year, but were like on the list for this year just due to the release dates and all that stuff. But at their list so far, the top rated we're just gonna do the top 10. They have 100, but we're just gonna do top 10 for based off their list of horror movies from 2025. And number one at the list, we have Sinners, which is to be expected. Number two on the list is Late Night with the Devil. Number three on the list is a movie named Oddity, which I'd seen previews for, but I have not checked it myself. So maybe something to check out since it's number three. It has a 96% on Rotten Tomatoes. Number four is The Ugly Stepsister, which is like a horror take on the Cinderella story. I actually heard a lot about this one from Twitter around the time it came out. This also has a 96% on Rotten Tomatoes. Number five is Companion, which released earlier in the year at a 93% Rotten Tomatoes. I know we did review this one. Did you review that one with us, Elion, or no?
Which one?
Companion?
I don't think so.
Okay. Yeah, so that was also one this year. Number six is a movie called Mads, M-A-D-S. That has a 94% Rotten Tomatoes. Number seven is Heretic with Hugh Grant. That has a 91% on Rotten Tomatoes. Number eight is The Devil's Bath. That has a 91% as well. Number nine, as we just mentioned in our previous article, 28 years later, that has a current 89% on Rotten Tomatoes. And number 10 spot, it is Bring Her Back, which is the second movie from the brothers that brought us the movie Talk to Me. And that's currently sitting at 89% as of right now. So a lot of good stuff in here. Definitely interested to see how this is going to look towards the end of the year. Once we get, some more stuff. We got like the new Conjuring movie coming out. I know Megan 2.0 that comes
I'm so
out
excited.
later this week for us at the time of recording. Horror movie list, but we'll see how that comes out. But yeah, we got a lot of other stuff dropping this year that will keep us well fed. But with that, we will move on to our movie this week, which once again is the 2018 remake of Suspiria. So just to kind of start, this movie, while it is a remake, it isn't a remake in the sense that it covers the exact same beats as the original movie. It kind of goes not a little bit in his own direction and takes like the general gist of the story, but does his own thing with it. And it definitely feels more an adaptation than a complete like remake, which I definitely appreciated. The original movie was very saturated in its colors. It was like very colorful. The music was pretty brash with it coming from like a rock band, and there was a lot of different stylistic choices made in that one, and this film kind of goes in the opposite direction of that movie, going for a more muted look in terms of like its like cinematography, coloring. The music is done by Tom York of Radiohead, and it kind of just has a different overall vibe of it, and watching it back to back, like seeing that one, the previous one, and then this one, it's very jarring how different they look and what comes of them. But I found myself more interested in this version of this story, more so because there felt like there was a story as opposed to the first movie. The first movie, which I think was one of my main gripes, is that the plot was kind of nowhere to be found. Like we were served ideas of a plot, but there was not much else going on with it. And I believe that might have been like my main issue within that, like covering that first one. But I feel like in this one we kind of get a little more like with an actual story, what's going on here. We see things like trying to be found out, a little more like character interactions that kind of make sense. The acting's a bit better as well here too. Um, I think personally it works well for my my taste as far as movies go. This works a little more for me. Um, I haven't dabbled a lot into the giallo genre that the original movie comes from, so I can't really speak on the genre. But I would say this like remake kind of feeds a little more into what like I'm into watching. Now, this was Elion's first time viewing this movie, and what were your initial thoughts?
My initial thoughts, honestly, I was really confused. Like, I'm not even gonna deny it. I was really confused because there was a lot of categories that was being discussed in the film that made it like it was kind of overlapping on each other. Which once you go through the whole film, it makes more sense. The one thing I will say is the beginning was very slow paced, like
Hmm.
so slow paced that it kind of made me. It kind of reminded me personally, and you might hurt me for this, The Shining and Hereditary. Like it also gave me off the vibe of Hereditary because like when I first watched Hereditary, I was really confused with the film. You know what's funny? I still don't even understand what the movie was about. To be fair, um,
This one, or Hereditary?
Hereditary, I still don't know. But what I'm trying to say is like it was that confusing because there were so many things, and that's why it kind of like reminded me of it. The beginning reminded me of The Shining with that whole thing. I was just falling asleep in that. But the more you get, the more you go throughout the whole film. Not only was it getting more interesting, it was kind of getting it was getting darker as you realized how everything sets in.
Hmm.
um, I wasn't aware that I was aware once you brought it up, or you and Mark brought it up, that this was like I wouldn't say would you consider this a remake or like a more of a
Well, it is a remake because they're redoing another like previous project, so it is
yeah
a remake. I know you weren't in for the previous episode, but it does follow the same like general idea of the story. It just does so. It just takes it in a different direction, especially towards the end. That whole ending part in this movie totally different from what happened in the previous version of this story. But this
gotcha.
also kind of adds its own bits of lore inside of there as well. Um, Being that I will say in that original movie there wasn't a lot going on plot wise anyways, so that kind of works in this movie's favor that it goes its own way with the lore and the use of like some of the witchcraft in the movie, because while it was mentioned in the original movie, we didn't really see much of it until like the end. um so we really didn't see a lot of what was going on there.
Right, of course. Um, the one thing I will say is like I really enjoyed the film. I don't know if the I think you said it, but I wasn't sure because I couldn't find anything that they were gonna make the remake the other thing because I didn't know it was also part of a trilogy as well until later on. It was just really interesting. I was like, I wonder if there's gonna be like another part of it. Obviously there are the old films, but I was kind of like thinking like I wonder if they're gonna ever redo them again, you know, in the later future.
Hmm.
But those are my thoughts of the film. To be fair,
Yeah. So there was talks of there being a sequels or possible sequel to this movie. As initially, this was going to be a part one. They were going to name this Suspiria Part One, and then they
oh,
were planning for a part two. But it didn't do that good in the box office, which we'll get to in our facts. It didn't do as good in the box office, and I think in like 2020, the director was asked about the proposed sequel, and he said it like he didn't think that it would get done because of how bad it did in box office. Unfortunately, but um, not to be dissuaded, let's get a little more into it. Do you have any scenes or standouts from the movie that you like, good, bad, or indifferent?
Okay, like I said prior, was that I was honestly really falling asleep in this film, but the one that caught me off guard, and I would say
I
it
feel
was
like
one of
I
the most.
probably know.
It's one of the goriest things I've seen, and I was posting in the group chat, and you guys didn't understand what I was trying to mean. Like around 30 minutes, we see that Olga was leaving because obviously
Oh yeah.
Patricia, yeah, and I don't know if you know because I'm honestly kind of confused who got Olga into that room, and then Susie started dancing the Volk, I think it's called, and the way that Olga's body was contorting, the way that she was like, it was so surreal. It was just like traumatic. Like you see the pain that she's going. Obviously, she peed on herself from like the fear that she's going through, the pain that she's enduring, and it was just like, and at the end, how they just literally used like a hook just to grab her and like take her somewhere else. I was just like, that was so fucked up. That was like one of the scenes that was the one that grabbed my attention. I was like, what the fuck is this film? Um, I would say it had its slowish moments. I was more confused. I was trying to figure out what that blue light was. Um, I think you know what I'm talking about.
Say again.
The blue light.
I don't think it was ever anything said on it. It more just kind of seemed like that was like a visual interpretation of the like power of the witches in a sense,
Right.
or like the like connections, because like we saw in that scene, like with Olga, like when Mother Blanc or Madame Blanc, when she kind of put her hands over Susie, that once she did that, she kind of like used her as like a vessel to hurt Olga in that way.
Right.
Um, but yeah, I don't think it was ever said. I think it was just to kind of give us a visual, like of like seeing the like maybe like know the witch is there, or just for us to like have a visual of seeing that and being like, okay, if this is in frame, the witches are doing some shit here.
Yeah. I think another thing that a lot of the things that I really like were more like the ending. So I don't know if I can discuss them right now, or we should just discuss it
Yeah,
throughout the whole. Okay.
go
Um,
for it.
I think one of mine was like the realization that Susie was Suspirium because like, we get the intro of her just being like, I think she ran away like as an Amish kid or something like that. Like she used to be an Amish girl.
Hmm.
Uh, then we get to then we realize she is the embodiment of Mother Suspirium, and I really loved it because I was getting so fucking fed up. Like the amount of names that were on her, like I was trying to figure out who the fuck was what's her name? The who was trying to be basically the fraudulent Suspirium. What's her
Oh,
name?
what?
Oh, no,
Are you talking about
what's
Marcos?
Marcos? There we go, Marcos.
Hmm.
Like I this whole time, like this movie was so confusing. Like, I'm telling you, I had to like rethink who everyone was. I thought Marcos was the dancer, the choreographer.
Yeah,
Um,
that's Madame Blanc.
yeah, no. I know now, but I was saying like it took me a while to understand everything. Uh, I was gonna say where she reveals it, and then you see that Marcos is there, frightened because obviously they're a false prophet, and then the big demon that comes out, killing everybody who chose to worship and still follow
Hmm.
Marcos. I was like, what the fuck? Um, I and I thought this was like another thing was like very passionate, and I felt like because I think reading it, we were talking about like there was like three elder witches. Obviously, she's one of them. She's the wisest. That remember Olga, Patricia, and who was the other one? Oh, and
Um,
Susie? No, not Susie. Sarah.
no, that was Sarah. Yes.
Yeah. Like she was very compassionate about them. That she allowed, like, unlike the gruesome deaths that she did to the followers of Marcos, she gave them a peaceful death, and she let people live, the witches live, who were obviously like they're not willful, or like they didn't even know what was going on. On top of that, I
Hmm.
love that she kept the doctor alive. And I felt like it was such a the doctor's story was more of like a kind of like a backup. Like it was like a
Yeah.
character, but it was so sad, like understanding what happened, especially with his wife and the compassion that like this witch gave to him, knowing what happened to his wife at the end, which I thought was very
Mhm.
lovely and like, but it was also very saddening.
Yeah. And so, like, pretty much everything that you just said, none of that is in the original movie.
Really?
None of that is a part of the original movie. So in the original movie, how it ends or how the third act closes up is essentially Susie finds her way into the witch's ongoing kind of they're like seance or whatever or before they're about to essentially put Marcos's like being into her body. That part is still the same. They are going to use her as like a vessel, but
Mhm.
at the end of the movie, she escapes like the room, and she goes on to inside of Marcos's room, and the body of Patricia in that version of the movie, they reanimate her to attack Susie, but she ends up killing Marcos before anything could happen, and the rest of the witches start to die, and the school falls apart, and then she ends up leaving.
What?
And that's how it happens in that rendition, like
Oh,
in the
wow.
original movie. So it's very very different from this one. And this one, like, this one kind of departs from a lot.
See,
And
like
does
the
its
thing
own
is,
thing.
I would go watch it, but now watching the remake, I don't think I want to watch the original because I feel like if I fall asleep the first 30 minutes, I feel like I'm gonna fall asleep in the other one.
I will say that the opening for the original one is a little more probably.
Engaging.
Also, it's a shorter movie. This movie is long. This movie is like
Okay.
two, like almost three.
Mhm.
Like this movie's almost 2 hours 30 minutes. I think
Yeah.
it's almost like an hour longer than the original. The original one was like
Oh
an hour,
wow. Okay.
hour 30. Yeah, that's how much it adds because a lot of stuff in here was added for this movie, like the whole thing with the doctor. Like we saw him in the
Mhm.
first one, he was mentioned, but he had not as big of a like scene or like items going on as he did in this one. Um,
Right.
so it like his whole little backstory to his wife, all that stuff, definitely not in the original movie. So it was just a lot more added on in this one to kind of give more weight to the story. Um,
But was it like authentic to the actual like the original, or was it just more of like just added on content that not even the original writer knew?
yeah, I would say just add it on for this
Okay.
interpretation. Yeah, because there wasn't anything like that in the original,
Right.
especially in regards to this ending for sure. Um, yeah, but the ending in this one was crazy though. It was a lot going on, but
The body was tea. You can't lie that body was tea.
yeah, it was a lot going on here. From Blanc almost getting fucking decapitated. The way they just kept her head half off was so like, uh,
Wait. Actually, I want to talk about this because I know that they say that Blanc left the company, like the company. But what happened? Was there any like realization? Like, did she leave to do something else? Because I thought this whole time she would like. I found out that she was alive, which scared the shit out of me because like you said, she was like basically half decapitated. But I just wanted to know, like, is there any kind of like, was that part of the original as well, or no? It just like cuts off where you like she just runs away.
Yeah, everything at the end just cuts off for the
Okay,
original movie where I said when she kills Marcos. Um, we don't even have a whole little like seance or ceremony type thing in the original one,
gotcha.
like we get in this one. Um, I don't. I don't think she actually like left the company. I just think it was like this bitch ain't this bitch is dead, or they keeping her in a basement or something. Because like, what else are they gonna do?
Right.
Um, but to answer one of your questions from earlier, at least in regard to the whole Olga thing, which I also didn't want to talk about because that was a brutal ass scene. I was not expecting that when I first watched it. Um, but okay, nobody physically led her into that room. It was kind of the just doings of the witches that led her into the room, and
Yeah, no,
then they
no,
kind of
I get
locked
that
her in
part.
there.
No, I got that part. I was trying to
Um,
figure out who it was, which one.
I think it was. I'm forgetting which witch or mother. Who was the mother? I forget which witch, but I think it was the one she was wearing the glasses. I believe she was
Oh, gotcha, gotcha.
controlling in
Oh,
that moment.
that scene also fucked me up too. The one with glasses,
Yeah,
where she literally just stabbed herself.
yeah. So that was crazy, and then yeah, once again, Olga Singh. That's the one everybody like talks about from this movie. Which I mean, why wouldn't they? That's crazy. Nothing like that was in the original for sure. Um,
Yeah.
and the way I really like the way they tied it into like the dancing aspect of it, because that was also something that I feel was missed in the first one or the original movie. Is like while we did have like a little bit of like practices and dance going on, it wasn't we didn't get as much or even like a whole set piece like we did in this one when they did Volk.
Yeah.
There wasn't like anything like that in the original. It kind of just feels like that was just like the setting for the movie in the original and not really like an aspect for the story purposes of it all. Um, but yeah, that was a great scene. With like with the whole Olga thing, and also that one scene that I liked was the when Blanc and Susie had like that conversation. I believe it was in like Blanc's office or something.
Mhm.
I just like the way that scene was shot. It just even though it was a conversation, it was just shot like really well. And one, I usually don't really care for her, but Dakota Johnson was actually working for her paycheck in this movie. Um,
I didn't even
you could
realize
tell
it was
she was
Dakota
interested.
Johnson. I dead ass didn't even know it was her. Because I'm so
Yeah,
used to
you
her
could
like playing.
tell she liked it.
What?
No, so you could tell that she actually liked this project.
No, I know, but it was just like it caught me off guard because I was like, I'm so used to Dakota Johnson being so monotone. Like, yeah, uh. And then I'm like, what the fuck is this?
And it works. It works in this though.
It really does. It was the fact that it was the ginger hair. It was the ginger hair.
It works in this like in this whatever like the style that they were going for in this movie. Like her acting style works in this movie,
It sure did.
and I really yeah I would just give her little flowers for that one. Yeah, I'm usually not a fan. Um, but yeah, she definitely she was good in this one, and I feel like it worked in that conversation like that she had with like Blanc and like her office, those two together. Like I don't know, it just felt very like very tension filled. Like we don't know what for until we once we get towards the end of it all, we don't know like why it feels that
Yeah.
way. Um, Another scene that was like crazy was when Sarah, the Volk stuff is going on and the performance, and Sarah's like walking around trying to figure shit out, and they spawn that fucking hole in the floor, and break her leg.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Oh my god.
That,
I'm like, damn.
no, they did her so dirty there. Like that shit looked crazy, and then they fucking patched her up and literally like sent her back out there. Like that was crazy
But she was also
how they
mind
did.
controlled. That's why she didn't even feel anything at the time.
Yeah, and allegedly that scene was actually supposed to be even a little more graphic.
They should
Like
have
they
added
were
it.
like initially from what I had read is the witches would have just like patched, like not patched up, but fixed the outside of her leg. Her leg would have
Yeah.
still been broken, and they still would have made her dance, and it would have broken during the dance, like
Oh my
fully.
god.
So that would have been crazy to see. Um, yeah, so that was good as well. Uh, Another one that was towards the end, which you did mention, was, when like Suspira was like in her full like form, just how she went about things. Like she wasn't taking she really wasn't taking no prisoners. She was like, okay, y'all bitches, you gotta go because y'all preaching the false prophets essentially, and the rest of you, either you could live or you could die. It's up to you. Like I know we just kind of went over, but I like how she was handling shit. To be honest,
The one thing I like is like she wasn't killing to be out of
like
rage or
brutal.
anything. It was more of like what's it called? It was more of like you chose the route you are. I'm not here out of rage. I'm here about like reasoning. Like she wasn't being unreasonable with what she did. She was showing compassion in a sense. It wasn't about hate towards anybody else. It was more of the fact that you disrupted what was supposed to be true.
But before we move on to our characters, Elion, you have any other scenes, anything we want to discuss before we move on to our little character list?
No, not at all. I'm ready.
All right. With that, we are on to our characters. First up, we have Sarah, who in this movie was played by Mia Goth. Sarah was kind of like the friend of our main character Susie, and she was, told information by Dr. Klimper in regards to, the school, the witches, and that. She was trying to go through and, figure some stuff out until she got. Um, I did like Sarah's character though. Mia Goth always does good with these weird ass roles. She's so good at this. Like she just has that look for like this shit like this. I don't know. I don't know how to describe it.
I think it offers a lot more of the human side.
Yeah,
All right.
and she was in there because like if I was in her position, I don't know if I would have went researching. Like, do you
Like,
think that
oh,
you would have? You think you would have like done like what she was doing and went through like the school trying to find answers and stuff like that, or would you
I would have left
like
my
on?
ass. I would have
You'd have been on to
left.
mind your business.
I would
Yeah,
mind my business, get out of there, and move on with my life.
yeah. That's kind of how I feel about it. To be quite honest, because I just don't know if I would have had it in me to do it.
Mm-mm. I'd be too
And
scared.
then,
I'm not afraid to admit it.
yeah, because like just the whole vibe in general, and like if I was around these bitches, I'm like, oh y'all weird. I don't want to be
Yup.
here. Like y'all are not giving good old little ballet recitals. This shit, like you could just walk in there and feel like, oh, this devil worshiping.
Girl.
But yeah, she was trying to be helpful though, which I'll give to the character. But yeah, it just wasn't. It just didn't work out for our girl. I mean, she did find the answers, but she couldn't even get them out in time because the fucking witches were like one step ahead of her, and like once she was like about to like give out the information. Boom, fucking your leg gets sucked into the floor and broken, and they send her out in a dazed state, and she ends up getting offed at the end. Mercy killed essentially, which I'm glad they got to make those choices at the end for themselves, and it wasn't like a forced thing or anything like that. Moving on though, I'm just gonna wrap. I wonder, should I wrap all these up in one? No, well, I'll just do them one by one, even though they're the same person. So, in the movie, for those who may not know or have even watched the movie and didn't know, Tilda Swinton actually plays three characters in this movie. She plays Madame Blanc. She also plays the Doctor, Joseph Klemperer, and she was Marcos as well.
That was I literally just before we started recording, when fucking Juan told me that, I was like, no fucking way, stop fucking lying. I was dead ass shook because this whole time I thought they were all different people. She played such a good ass role because this whole time I thought that was an actual man.
A lot of people did, and they even went a little further with it because in the credits of the movie they put like a fake name for the Doctor. Yeah, they put like a fake name or a pseudonym, so a lot of people didn't know like initially that it was her playing the Doctor. So that was pretty funny when the movie first came out and that happened. But yeah, she did. She was doing triple work in this movie, and she did great because a lot of people didn't know.
So did she get paid triple though?
I don't know.
I'm just saying, because my girl put in the work.
Yeah, she did put in the work. But we're going to talk the first of her character, which I think you could say just had the least amount going on here, which was Marcos, or Mother Marcos. You can't be a false prophet.
Right.
That's essentially what it comes down to. Like, she was trying to run things her way, but she wasn't one of the three mothers. Like, she really wasn't running shit. And it just, I mean, we saw the end, it didn't work out. And she was being too brash, because if she would have shut the fuck up and listened to Blanc.
She was so ugly.
She like over 100 years old.
Girl, she looked like Jabba the Hutt.
Oh shit! Not to me, she looked like that little old thing from SpongeBob who wanted her chocolate.
I said Jabba the Hutt. You know what else she looked like? Do you remember
What's he giving? Do
you remember the girl, the celebrity that dressed up as the Iron? He's like, "Would you love me if I was a worm?"
Oh my god!
Heidi Klum. There we go, Heidi Klum.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, but Mother Marcos, she really didn't have much going on with the story. She was kind of just like a overseer in a sense, and that the rest of them were kind of doing biddings for, and they saw something in Susie, which, I mean, they didn't see enough. Which I was watching this, I always wondered, like, how they couldn't sense something more in her. Like, they could sense that she was different, but they couldn't sense that she was possibly, like, a stronger witch than them, or even more than that. I don't know. That was something I'd always wonder, like, if they had all this power and, like, energy and stuff to see certain things, like, why they couldn't, figure out a little bit more. But moving on, we have the Doctor, Joseph Klemperer, also played by Tilda Swinton, and this role was increased in this movie. Because in the previous
Don't tell me that the original
movie,
is the same actor played all three characters too.
No. But the role itself and like the story given to the Doctor was increased in this movie. He really only appeared in like one or two scenes in the original.
Really?
Yeah, like because we didn't see the Doctor until like the midway point of the movie. Um, After either Sarah died or right before Sarah died in the original, and it was in regards to them trying to find Susie's trying to find information on Patricia and asking the family. So there wasn't really much going on there in regards to the Doctor. So we got a lot. That's what like a lot of kind of extra story in this one came from was the Doctor being there and them kind of giving the Doctor a storyline and such.
Yeah.
But I felt like the Doctor was an interesting character. His whole side story with like his wife and stuff was interesting, and then we get the ending bit where he's like the witness in the whole thing of the like witches ceremony, and Mother Suspiriorum like talks to him, tells him what actually happened with his wife. They're fucked up though for using his wife like that to get him to the
Oh my god! Please don't
to the
remind me.
school.
That
That
was
was
so bad.
yeah. Yeah, that was sad. They fucked them over with that. But I I like that they gave this character a little more to do. Like, not that I could compare it to the original, like because there wasn't much going on with that one, as I mentioned, but it was a good like differentiating factor in this one as opposed to the original movie, which I enjoyed.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts on Doctor like Kepler?
Um, I just honestly really bad for this person. To be fair, I think we get the notion that he's obviously he's a Holocaust survivor. On top of that, he's going through his own trauma, and being a I think he was a therapist or being a psychologist. He
Mm-hmm.
also not only was he showing compassion for these girls, because obviously he was helping Patricia, then talking to Sarah, and obviously what's it called, um, Spirium, you know, showed compassion for him and then offered it. It was just like it showed that it was just more of like the dark side of humanity, not like in a bad sense, like the sad, the sorrow portion, like grief, uh, grief, pain, and not having that closure. So I think it was just more of like for me, that's what this character represented a lot in this film. I've noticed that each character kind of represented a form of like a human emotion. I don't know if you kind of saw that. Um,
I don't know if I picked up on that, but I'm interested to hear.
well, we obviously have um, doctor, going through the sorrow and grief of losing his wife. We have
Mm-hmm.
Sarah going. Sarah is about the human aspect of uh, kindness, friendly, and worrisome, in my opinion. Then we have Patricia, who basically was about rebellion, about going against going against the system. And then we
Mm-hmm.
have Olga, who was about fear. Because remember when she figured out that they were witches and all that stuff, and then the fear that she had, and she wanted to run away. That's what I saw.
I like that. I like that interpretation. Um, what was I gonna say here?
And then I feel like Susie's character is more of enlightenment, because obviously this whole thing is about don't be a false prophet. Know who you are, or I'm the one that is supposed to be basically I'm the real one. I'm the OG.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I like that. I guess we could kind of round up Tilda Swinton's last character, which is her most important in the movie, being that Madame Blanc. Now, I think she did really good as like obviously she did like three roles in this movie, but
Did a
she
great
was really
job.
good as this. This was like the best of her three characters that she did in this one. Um, I don't like she's because she's always been a good actress, but like I don't know, it just felt like This is one of those roles I'm like, yeah, I don't see anybody else but you doing this. I don't see anybody else who would be able to kind of give that same type of emotion and such that Tilda Swinton did for Blanc in this, as regards to this movie. Because in the original one, like, we really didn't see. I keep saying it, but we really didn't see much of Blanc in the original one, and they expanded her part.
The thing is, you have the perspective of seeing both films, and you see more of the original compared to like me, who's new and only seen the newer version. It allows us to actually talk about like compare and contrast what's different and what's the same. So it actually offers really good insight.
Yeah, the role was definitely expanded here. Honestly, that's one thing I could just say overall in regards to this one. Like, a lot was just expanded upon in this one.
Yeah.
Given it, like, I would say more lore, but its own original lore in a sense. Um, and they kind of did that with Blanc in this one, giving her like a bit more to do, and
So
it was worth it for having. It was worth it for like having Tilda Swinton in this role and doing that, and I believe she was on board with everything up until the end, where she felt like she had those doubts, and then that's when Marcos was basically off with her head,
right.
and shut the fuck up. So I like, if anybody should have been, like, if anything, she should have been the new. Well, I ain't gonna say she should have been the new like mother, because like Susie was there regardless of the fact, but it seemed like she would have been better to carry a mantle than Marcos was in play, like how they had it all going. Which we saw that there was kind of like a fight. That was kind of another like side thing in here, was kind of like that fight for power, like a fight for
Yeah.
fighting for like power dynamics that they were kind of going through in the story, and you could tell that Blanc didn't feel like appreciated almost.
I see what you mean.
But yeah. But do you have any thoughts on her? If not, we can move on to Susie, who I know you have thoughts on.
I have nothing on Blanc, to be fair, more than what I already spoke. Uh,
Well, then keep it going.
um, like I said, I didn't realize that was Dakota Johnson. And I don't know why, but this whole time I thought that was the girl from Stranger Things.
You talking about Sadie Sink?
You have to admit you can see it though.
I don't though.
This whole time I thought that was her.
Sadie
Because I'm
Sink
looking.
is 23. Mind
No,
you.
hold on. Because like literally, I'm looking at this. I'm like, is she a teenager? Why is she making this film? And then when I saw the question, I was like, that's Dakota Johnson.
Oh my god! I don't even know how you saw that the entire time.
Girl, I'm telling you. Because I'm looking at this, I'm like, girl, I grew up with this person, like watching her in Stranger Things. I'm like,
mind you, this movie came out in 2018.
stop. Wait, she was born in 2002. Oh my god, no. I didn't even think about that. I was just like, is this my girl? Is this Oh my god. But you had to take note for me. I'm like, that's why I was like so confused. I was like, wait, is that her really? That can't be her.
She was like 17 when this movie came out.
Oh, was she? Okay. Because I'm like, girl, but still, I'm like, you have to take note. I'm watching it in 2025, so I'm still thinking it's like a recent film.
That's so funny.
But you cannot tell me you don't see it.
I really don't though. I'm gonna be so dead ass.
Oh my god. I might be blind as hell.
That is so funny.
That was my only thought process, girl.
I liked Susie way more in this one than I did in the previous iteration that we had. No, I think Dakota Johnson did a really good job with this role because I usually, yeah, as far as actresses go, she's one of those that I really don't find that interesting a lot of the time.
No, she's very monotone.
That, but like sometimes, like even just because I feel like there's some actors that are like monotone, but like are still good actors. But the thing with her, like I don't feel like she's kind of giving into the role
Okay.
in a sense. Like I feel like she feels the same in each role for me a lot of the times, and but I feel like that kind of deadpan like acting type of style works a bit here because of like the tone of the story and what's kind of going for it, and I think it works in her favor. Um, Additionally, they gave just the character of Susie a little more to do in this one as well. And I know I feel like I've been saying that a lot. Like a lot of things have just been expanded in this movie. I feel as
If that's how
opposed
you
to
feel, that's how
the
you feel.
yeah. I just don't want to sound like a broken record, but I feel like I have to because we are making a comparison, and it just kind of gives that like 'cause even in the original, like Susie was our main like character, but Susie was a boring main character. Like she wasn't really doing anything, and I feel like some people could say, like I could see where someone could say the same thing about this Susie, but I feel as though this interpretation was a little more interesting, especially once we get to the end and we find out that she's Mother Superiorum the whole time as well. Um, and that while they thought they were playing checkers, she was playing chess on that ass. And
Period.
I was just waiting for them to kind of give themselves up and get rid of anybody who went against her. With that said, that brings us to the end of our character list, and I will go into some of our facts. Where the fuck is it? So, behind the scenes facts and info for Suspiria 2018. The budget for this movie was around 20 million and it brought in a box office of 7.9 million.
Damn.
Yeah. That's why we're not getting a sequel, unfortunately.
Wait, how much was it? And then how much it brought in the box office?
Budget 20 million, box office 7.9.
Are you serious? Damn.
Yeah.
Holy
I don't
shit.
really know. Yeah, I don't really know what attributed it to this doing so low. Um, I really don't know why, because when I went to see it, the theater was pretty packed when I saw it, like back in 2018. But yeah, I don't know why this like ended up being so low and not making as much, especially coming off like it being kind of a remake to Suspiria, which is like lauded as one of the greatest like horror films of all time. So I would have expected more from this in regards to box office returns. But um, yeah. And some critics' reactions. The film currently sits at a 68% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is 28% less than the original movie.
Well, shit.
But what do we think? Elion, would you cash or pass Suspiria 2018?
Um, Honestly, I would cash it. Like I did have my negative reviews on it just because, like I said, it was a slow pace beginning, but it started becoming more not just interesting, but you get more of the understanding of the story, this timeline, the overlapping characters. The one thing I really liked is that there was multiple stories in one film. That's what I'm gonna say, and it's one of those films where even though it's very confusing, I could still give it a watch one more time to understand it more, or give it to have a better understanding of it.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely cash.
Yeah, I think I would also cash this one. It wouldn't be one that I kind of like watch regularly, because it is a long watch. But I could see myself definitely. I could see myself coming back to this one and giving it a watch in the future, or if I'm wanting to show someone the movie. I think that the actors that were in this one, everybody did a really good job. Like in this movie, I didn't feel like there was a bad performance throughout it. The kind of twists that we get near the end with Susie as Mother Superiorum, like the whole time we think that they're fighting for one thing, yet we have another situation going on that they don't even know about. So I very much enjoyed this. I would cash this movie, and I think that maybe it was dealt a bad hand, like around the time it came out, because I think it could have. I feel like this should have gotten way more than 7.9 million.
I'm very shocked by that. I thought, look, I understand it's not going to be everybody's cup of tea, but I would expect it at least to break even.
Yeah. So that's sad to see, but yeah, I don't think it's I think maybe it's more like an audience thing, because I don't think the movie itself bad or anything like that, or the people behind it, like Luca Guadagnino, great director, and all the other talent attached to it. So yeah, that does suck to see sometimes, but what can we do about it? Well,
Fair.
with that though, that brings us to the end of this episode. Please join us next week as we will be reviewing the movie Talk to Me. I am excited to finally get to this one. It's been a while since.
Is that the one about the hand?
Yes.
Oh my god! Finally, I haven't watched it myself actually.
Yeah, it's been a while since we have just talked about doing this one, because me and Mark saw it in theaters around the time it came out, and we were like, okay, we're gonna do it. And then now that we have the Bring Her Back movie, which is the second movie from the brothers that directed Talk to Me, we can finally get to this one, so we can kind of do a little duology for you guys, see their progression maybe. So yeah, I'm excited for that one. Talk to Me was one of my favorites around the time it released, and it still is. I love putting that one on for people. So yeah, join us for that one, and until then, good night. If you like this episode, please be sure to check out some from the Haddonfield Horror Cemetery, where we've covered big franchises such as Friday the 13th, Halloween, and Saw, or one-off reviews like The Blackening or Hereditary. You can follow Haddonfield Horrors on Instagram and TikTok, where the host posts updates and mini reviews. Full episodes are available on several podcasting platforms, including Spotify, as well as YouTube. If you're listening to us on YouTube, please be sure to like and subscribe. The Haddonfield Horrors podcast is produced by Mark Smart, Tawan Griffin, and Elian Cordova, themed by Lethal Injection, and edited by Mark Smart.
The Haddonfield Horror Podcast is a Letter to Media production.
Should we do an intro?